So let's talk about the relevance of stock splits. Are they really relevant? Should you give a shit about them? All right, so let's talk about the pros and cons of stock splitting. Everybody paints a pretty picture for everything, but we're here to talk about the real and how it affects you and your investing. Damn it, I'm gonna talk to you about stocks. So let's talk about the relevance of stock splits. Are they really relevant? Should you give a shit about them? The answer is yes and no. The no being is you can now buy slices of stocks with apps such as Robinhood or with stocks such as like Charles Schwab. So meaning that you don't necessarily need to wait for a stock split in order to buy a slice or a share of a stock. With that said, how did stock splits come to be and why, even though they're not relevant now, were they relevant? Before you had apps like Charles Schwab and Robinhood, you would have to actually buy the whole stock. Most people don't have $2,237.99 lying around. And so if you want a dollar cost average, it makes it very, very difficult to do so. A company would say, oh, well, we want to become more liquid. We want to give investors an opportunity to invest in our company even more. So we'll do a stock split. And so that's how stock splits came about and why it's relevant. Another reason why stock splits are relevant is because it's a good marketing event, meaning that if the company doesn't have a lot of attention around it, then leveraging a stock split puts you in the news. It gets investors excited about it. Companies that have done stock splits in the past that have gotten a lot of attention are companies like Tesla and companies like Apple. So let me give you guys an example that's super relevant to me specifically. I work for Google. I have roughly $433,000 worth of shares. After the stock split happens and it goes 20-1, now the stock split based on the price today will be $111 and whatever I said, 89 cents. Now, what I'm hoping for is that $111.89 goes up by just 3x, right? Then that 433 grand worth of stock that I have becomes roughly 1.2 million. So because the stock split happens and there's more liquidity in the market and the stock goes up after the stock split, I'll have more money than I have now. Even though the amount that I have now is the same, that means people are buying more and the value of the company or the market share of the company is going up. I think I made that complicated. Olivia, do you understand that?
No, it works for me as someone that knows nothing about investing. It does make sense, so you're all good.
Okay, yeah, and the whole goal is to say the positives of a stock split, or why I'm excited at least about the Google stock split, is because the amount of shares that I have or the value of my stock has the potential of going up. Nothing's guaranteed, but it does have the potential of actually going up. All right, so let's talk about the pros and cons of stock splitting. Let's look at this Wall Street Journal article. The appeal to the mom and pop investor. Olivia, even though I'm not like a pop, am I still a mom and pop investor? Look up.
I guess
I'm
so.
curious what mom and pop investor means. So mom and pop investors invest very small amounts of money into the equity market. They do not expect large amounts of returns from their investments and also bear low risk. Due to the lack of experience, mom and pop investors can be irrational and impulsive to the fluctuations of the market. The appeal to mom and pop investors. The primary justification often given for stock splits is to keep them affordable for small time investors and to keep them happy, since it's these investors who seem to like them most. A shareholder at Amazon.com's annual meeting asked Chief Executive Jeff Bezos to consider one just for this week. He said the company has no plans to split, but didn't rule it out in the future. Next one, not to appear expensive. Market experts and academics who have studied share splits say executives who split their company's stock may be motivated by the desire to keep their companies from looking overvalued. William C. Weld, a finance professor at the University of North Carolina, Keegan's Flagler Business School, said that some unseasoned retail investors mistakenly believe that a higher stock price may limit the upside to the shares or make it harder for the shares to climb swiftly. Third reason, to help with investors with portfolio composition. If an investor has a $100,000 portfolio, buying a company with $1,000 stock means that each additional share will increase its weight in the portfolio by a full 1%. That can be bulky when trying to fine-tune a mix of investments. 4. To increase liquidity. The additional shares that are created in a split are sometimes said to translate into more orderly trading of the stock. If just a limited number of shares are trading hands, a selling shareholder may have trouble finding a buyer near the listed price. Okay, so those are some pros of stock splits. The basic summary of that is to provide liquidity. It gives a perception that a company's doing well, and it also gives access to mom and pop investors, retail investors. I guess the Wall Street Journal author is calling idiots. I would be a mom and pop investor, and so would Olivia, even though neither one of us has kids right now. Okay, so now let's talk about some of the cons. Everybody paints a pretty picture for everything, but we're here to talk about the real and how it affects you in your investing. They cost investors more money. What does that mean? With the rise of passive investing, institutional investors have more sway over a company behavior than ever before. And the US is one of those few countries in the world where institutional investors pay middlemen by the share when buying and selling. As a consequence, splitting increases their fees. So, I mean, I guess that's okay. It doesn't seem like it affects us, right? We're not buying that much. And if you buy through an app like Vanguard, you buy the shares for no cost. All right, reason number 2, they cost the company money. When you split the shares, you've got to get bankers involved, says Richard Johnson, market structure analyst at Greenwich Associates, and bankers charge fees. All right, we don't give a shit about that. It costs the company money as long as it's not passed on to us. Who gives a shit? The third con is that it means nothing. It's just a marketing ploy to get you to buy into that company. That's probably the most relevant con out of all of this, because if you're excited about a stock split, but you're not necessarily ready to invest in that company, and the company says, hey, we're splitting shares, and now you put all your money into it thinking that it's only going to go to the moon, and it doesn't go to the moon, you're f***ed. It really means nothing based on the fact that you could buy slices. It might be a marketing ploy for the company to get you to buy into that specific stock. Here's what the Wall Street Journal has to say about that. It means nothing. A stock split changes nothing fundamentally about the company that does it. And to a serious stock analyst, the price of a single share by itself says zero about the actual value of the firm. So overall, it doesn't necessarily mean anything.